Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are excited to have JJ Snipes here joining us again, our man who's on a mission. Yes, we are here today breaking open a story of survival, deceit, and the powerful truth that comes when you refuse to stay silent. My guest again today is JJ, and he is that man on a mission who has faced down some of the darkest family secrets imaginable. He's exposed generational trauma and systemic corruption and really stood tall when many would just crumble. So, JJ, thank you for this and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jill. This isn't an easy story to tell, but it's one I know I meant to share with everybody.
Well, thank you for that. And what I'd like to do, of course, is start from the beginning. Before we do that, I want people to go to the website, immovingforward.net. Again, that's immovingforward.net. And again, as we continue to speak more with JJ, where, you're going to find out his story. And let's talk a little bit about the beginning. You have spoken about the deep-rooted generational trauma in your own family. And how did the cycle of silence and manipulation, I should say, begin? Could you share a little bit about this when you started to see through it?
I come from a long line of people who mastered the art of keeping secrets, secrets that destroyed lives, including my own.
Yeah.
It's hard to pinpoint exactly when it started, but the anger and manipulation go back generations. Let me take you back to my great grandmother. She was a small woman, barely 4'9", 4'10", but she commanded fear like a giant. You could feel the tension when you entered into a room. People feared her.
Yeah.
You didn't cross her because she could turn cold in an instant. Her daughter Phoebe, my mom's mom, she was also a ticking time bomb. My Uncle Ronnie told me one time, he said, you never know what she was going to do whenever you walk past her, whether she was going to hold her peace or slap the shit out of you. Excuse the expression. But I mean, my great grandmother, my great grandfather, he took my grandmother out to the barn and blew his brains out. I think she was between 3 and 4, right in front of her. You see, people think that she was just mean, but could you imagine her traumas, her memories? I mean, there was no healing back then. Everybody you brushed it up under the rug. I mean, I once met a 93-year-old man, and he still spoke of my great grandmother, with like awe and fear in his voice. He told me a story about how she shot a man over $2, which is $50 about $50 in today's time. But I mean, and no one ever questioned her.
Yeah.
She got away with it, just like she got away with so many other things.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, shooting someone over $2, that's just terrifying, right? And that sets the stage for a lot of the pain and violence that came after. And also just want to ask, your mic sounds just a little bit like there's wind in it. If you could just be very careful.
Okay.
It's moving around a lot. So I want to be able to hear you bestly, please. So tell us, this is shooting someone over $2. Can you share about this?
Well, like I said, I've told you before, she run a whorehouse. I mean, my papa, he bought my grandmother before she could turn her, but her sisters, they, about the age of 12, JP Raker, her husband, he would take them out to, she would go to sailors and, you know what I'm saying, and bring them in, or she would take them to them. I mean, who does that? But it was done a lot. Yeah. So, I mean, the real trauma came when, it just, whenever my grandmother ended up in the hospital, my great grandmother, she put all of the kids including my mother, into a home. It left scars so deep that even decades later, my aunt still harbored hatred for her at her funeral. That kind of anger and being abandoned and left to fend for yourself never left my family. They were abused in that home, and it only grew deeper.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking to hear all this, and it sounds like there was already so much unresolved pain that got passed down. Can I just ask what happened with Aunt Sissy and Uncle Lefty?
Yeah, they were my primary caregivers. It was like normal for me to be there, starting whenever I was about 2 years old. But Aunt Sissy, she was like a ticking time bomb, constantly on the verge of exploding. I mean, you had to walk the line. Uncle Lefty, he was a hard man, always angry. But it wasn't until later that I realized he was so furious all the time. It was because he deeply loved Aunt Sissy, but she used him. Yeah, she manipulated him, only being kind whenever she wanted money. Or, I mean, he was stuck in a toxic marriage where his love was used as a weapon against him.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in the middle of it. The tension in that house could break you down without anyone laying a hand on you.
Yeah. Sounds like you grew up, this is like a war zone. I mean, I had my own share of problems growing up in my house and it was a war zone, but this is deeper than that. I mean, we all have our own traumas and, but this must be extremely damaging, especially as a child, JJ.
I mean, it was. I mean, Aunt Sissy's manipulation wasn't just directed at Uncle Lefty. She taught me how to lie,
Mm-hmm.
to keep things from my uncle and play the game. I grew up learning how to deceive, and in that family, it wasn't just encouraged; it was like a survival tactic. You
Yeah.
lied, or you got crushed,
Yeah.
and it was usually about money, because
Mm-hmm.
she just spent it. That's how it operated, and because of that, it created a space where the most horrendous things could happen, and no one would say a word.
Well, let me ask you about what some of those secrets were. What were they hiding in particular? Could you share?
Well,
It's not
when I
too
was
much.
yeah, whenever I was 9 year old, um, my cousin tied me up and abused me. Um, he was like the golden child of the family. Everyone loved him and saw him as the perfect one, but he was an emotional wreck. And when it finally came out, when I finally spoke up about, I think I was about 19 years old, everything came crashing down. But instead of getting justice or support, I was met with silence and denial. They didn't want to deal with the truth because that would mean acknowledging, that it's like everything that we knew as it that what our family was, it was all a lie, man.
Well, this is unthinkable, and how they could just sweep something like this, under the rug. Wow.
Exactly. I mean, the family was wonderful at that. They'd sweep anything under the rug if it meant keeping the illusion intact.
Hmm.
I think they've been doing it for so long, brushing everything away, ignoring the pain, that they no longer knew how to face reality. It's like we was living in a fantasy world. It was like our own soap opera, our own TV show. In fact, Aunt Sissy was the one who always told me to keep things from Uncle Lefty. She trained me to lie, to cover things up. So whenever I was finally brave enough to tell the truth about what happened, it didn't fit the narrative. They wanted to believe. They didn't want. They just. It couldn't happen to us, and all you're going to do is embarrass us. And they shut me out.
Must have been really hard and taken a toll on you, obviously, as a child, especially being in this environment where you were forced to lie and then also punished for telling the truth.
Hmm. It did.
Oh,
I didn't have a chance to be a child.
no.
I was constant, and as a child, I was constantly on edge, constantly wondering what would happen next. I was walking on eggshells constantly, trying to survive in a world where love was used as currency and anger was a constant threat. And the abuse, it just added to the weight. It broke me down piece by piece until I didn't even know who I was anymore.
Oh,
They took my childhood from me. And for a
yeah.
long time, I let that define me. But as I got older, I realized that the only way to truly break free was to expose the lies,
Mm-hmm.
take back my power. And that's what I've been doing. I mean, boundaries. Whenever I was 19, the truth about my abuse, whenever it came to light, it wasn't just a spontaneous confession. It was a moment that was forced out of me in one of the most painful ways. My cousin, the one that abused me, my aunt and wife, they brought him to my job to confront him without telling me anything.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I seen him, it's like I went back to that 9 year old child. I grabbed my gun off the desk and went to the back door, but fear overtook me. Sometimes when we're abused, it doesn't matter how old you are, and
Yeah.
that same person, they still have a type of control over you. And I didn't understand it, but over the years and
Yeah.
through my experiences and helping others, it's common for us to go back to the age of our abuse,
Yeah.
and that's how we act. That's what we call triggered.
Ah, wow. Well, it must have been an incredibly triggering moment. Clearly, what made you decide to speak up then?
It it wasn't even a decision at first. I was still caught in the web of lies and manipulation. I mean, but the confrontation pushed me over the edge. He had the audacity to act like nothing had happened
Mm-hmm.
and still did it up until about 4 months ago. Then on top of that, my aunt came to me. The reason she had come to me in general was because
Yeah.
she asked if I was gay. And
Ah,
in her mind, being homosexual, she is something shameful, something unacceptable. She thought that she said there had to be a reason why I was doing that. And she's right.
yeah.
It was the abuse, and I couldn't believe it. Instead of recognizing the deep trauma I had gone through, she focused on that, you know.
Well, at this time, if you are just tuning in, I just want to remind everyone, JJ Snipes is here. The website, immovingforward.net. He's helping so many heal. And he's, again, with his coaching and his work, he can help you move forward and transform that life as well. So confidence building, relationship coaching, personal development coaching, as he's sharing his personal story here today. Sorry to interrupt, but we always have to remind people that we're talking to you about. I know it's a hard thing, this abuse that you were under, and it seems that she really created like this narrative that fit her understanding of the world and avoiding the genuine issue, and that had to be so isolating for you, right?
Yeah, because they would rather brush it up under the abuse than to have me walking around being a homosexual. What are you going to do to our
Yep.
name? But I'm not the only. See, I believe that God put us through things, because there's somebody out there this is their story too,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not the only one. Believe that. You don't have to be. I hate the word shame. You know, because it just that was the main word back in whenever I was growing up.
Yeah.
But it was like a war inside my head. Jill, I had been taught from such a young age that lies were survival.
Yeah.
You didn't you didn't talk about what really happened.
Mm-mm.
You lied to protect yourself,
Mm-mm. Yeah.
but also to protect the family. My aunt
Oh.
Sissy was the one who taught me. She's the one that taught me that. She'd always tell me, "Don't you tell your Uncle Lefty about this, or keep this between us." It wasn't just innocent white lies. It was training. Training to manipulate, to
Hmm.
hide the truth, to protect the image of the family, no matter what the cost.
Yep. Oh, wow.
So whenever I finally told the truth, it felt like I was doing something wrong. I'm talking about my family pretty much turned their back on me. And that's how deeply ingrained the deceit was. I had
Mm-hmm.
been conditioned to believe that truth was dangerous, that it could destroy everything. And in a way, it did. People took sides.
Yeah.
Some believed me, but most didn't.
Uh,
They preferred to stay in the dark because the truth was too uncomfortable.
yeah. Well, this is, it's like fighting two battles in a sense, right? It's the abuse itself, then the internal battle of breaking free from everything that you've been taught to believe in. Eee.
Exactly. And for a long time, even after I spoke out, I
Yeah.
struggled with that internal conflict. I
Mm-hmm.
had lived so long behind this mask of lies and manipulation that I didn't even know who I was
Yeah.
without it. I mean,
Yeah.
every time I felt the urge to be honest and
Yeah.
vulnerable, this voice in my head told me, "Don't do it. You're going to regret this. You're going to lose everything." And in a way, I did lose everything, at least everything I had known. But over time, I realized that what I had known wasn't worth holding on to.
Mm-hmm.
The lies weren't protecting me, they were destroying me. They were keeping me tied to a toxic system that had no place for truth or healing.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a decision. I rejected the mindset that had been forced. It had been forced on me, and I decided that no matter what happened or who I lost, I would live in the truth.
Yep. Well, also, you are living your truth today, which is just so powerful that you're here sharing your story and helping so many. What can I ask you is or was the turning point when you realized that you had to completely reject that toxic upbringing and step into a new way of living?
The turning point came when I realized that I no longer have to carry the weight of the family
Yep.
secrets. For so long, I was taught that protecting the family image
Mm-hmm.
was more important than my well-being.
Yep.
But whenever I finally spoke the truth about my abuse,
Uh-huh.
I saw how deeply that the lie had hurt me. It
Yep.
wasn't just the abuse itself, it was the years of silence that followed.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't breathe under the weight of it.
Yeah.
I knew that if I didn't start living authentically, I would never truly heal. And if you could just imagine how many people that triggers, because I can look in the mirror and I know who I am. And I realize that your opinion to me is none of my business.
So true. So true.
So,
Well,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
It came with a high cost, Jill, but it also came with freedom. The more I spoke out, the more I saw how powerful the truth is. I
Wow.
had been raised to believe that lies kept us safe. I'm
Mm-hmm.
6'6", 250 pounds. And I had these 4'10", 5'1" women. I mean, it had me under control. I mean, like I was a weasel, you
Uh,
know? And I broke it free. And now nobody you don't cross my boundaries now.
nope.
I mean, it's been tearing us apart for generations. And I made a vow to myself that I wouldn't continue the cycle. I wasn't going to let fear or manipulation control me anymore. That's why I do what I do now, whether it's through my podcast or my YouTube channel or my coaching. I'm
Yep.
committed to helping others break free from the lies and secrets that hold them back. I mean, who can't heal? I mean, if we keep living in the shadows.
Yep. It's so true. Well, thank you for sharing this and remind us of all the ways we can contact you before we continue.
I'm moving forward.net,
Thank you.
904-463-8755. And I am moving forward 222 at gmail.com.
Perfect.
I'm JJ Snipes on Facebook and the Global Healer on TikTok. I am moving forward on Instagram.
Well, let's share part 2 of this journey. You ready for that?
Yes.
All right, I know it's a lot. So this is the fight against systemic corruption. So the trauma you say wasn't just inside your family, it extended into the systems meant to protect the people around you. And unfortunately, you had battles with the Department of Children and Family Services. Talk
Yep.
us through this.
You
Thank
want to know?
you.
You want to know how God works?
Tell
I
us.
married into the same family into the same type of family that I grew up in.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, it's just like the DCF corruption. Wow, it's just the cover-ups orchestrated by my ex's aunt, Vera DaCosta, and how this battle with the system.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 9 times DCF has been called to my ex, to her house. My
Mm-hmm.
son, I went to see him about a week ago, and he wouldn't even look at me because she's got him in fear.
Yeah.
It's just like, who does this? And every person that she dates, and she's pregnant with her, I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's 7th child now. She's lost 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've lost 3. I buried one as mine, and then she miscarried 2, then got pregnant again. It's just like, wow. And I'm the only one on child support.
Yeah.
So, but it's just a system. But it's all about the money. They don't care about the kids. It's about
Mm-hmm.
the income tax check. They are a pawn.
Yeah.
It just, like I say, I'm exposing it so we can get some awareness. But I mean, like I told you before, I went to the senator, I went to the mayor. I'm not going to stop. I do it on YouTube, my YouTube channel. I go all in because I don't care about anybody's feelings. I don't care about their
Yeah.
jobs. It's about saving my son. It's
Yeah.
not about power. It's not about hurting anybody
Yeah.
because I still have no ill will towards, any of
Oh,
them.
gosh.
I can't help but love them. I've gone through my healing journey, and you're never totally healed. It's just a work in progress.
Sure is. My goodness. And this was 9 times you said DCF was called on your ex?
Yes, and nothing's ever been done.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's baffling to hear. And you even spoken with many state senators, mayor, trying to expose all this. But what
Well,
keeps you going back and forth to political, figures?
it's just, well, I mean, like I said, Senator Davis, she's a friend of mine. Her husband's a friend of mine. And whenever she went, because she was new to the Senate at the time, but she called her. She's friends with
Mm-hmm.
the head guy at DCF, and they said, "Oh, it's just a custody thing. It's just a divorce thing." What does that sound like? They're just brushing up under the rug.
Yep, exactly.
But as I say,
Exactly.
that whenever I went to Mayor Deegan, which she was new in office, she put it this way: the woman Vera, she had heart problems, had an open heart surgery. Whenever she went to go back to DCF, they said, "We don't need you no more."
Oh,
So they might not acknowledge me, but they're acknowledging the problem,
yep,
and the investigation is real.
yep. Well, let me ask you, your determination on this to protect your son as well, let alone to fight for justice and to expose those you think are untouchable.
That's it. I mean, because a lot of people they call us victims of child. No, I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor,
Yep.
and that's just whenever people, if they come to me and they want to stay in that victim
Mm-hmm.
mentality, I can't. If you're not willing to grow and do that shadow work, embrace your shadow, I can't. I mean, if you're not wanting to heal, I'm not just going to be that person that you can call a vent to.
Yeah.
But if
So
you're if
true.
you're actually making progress, let's work.
Yeah, let's do it. Mm-hmm.
So
And you have this YouTube channel as well. So could you share a
yes,
little bit about that?
I am moving forward. And I'm exposed. Well, I started it whenever I told you I cut my fingers off in 2019. I
Mhm.
died for a couple minutes, and that's whenever I started. I am moving forward
Oh,
because I thought I was invincible, but God let me know, hey, I run this. You work for me, and I've been on my mission ever since.
wow. How do we find the YouTube channel? Would you mind just
It's I am moving. It's JJ Snipes. I am moving forward.
beautiful? And your audience has been growing and you're helping those reclaim the power and healing back, right? So with all you've gone through, how have you managed to heal and transform your life?
Staying grateful
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, whenever my business succeeded, my brother-in-law said I didn't deserve because of my past.
Yeah.
But God, if you're not sick, you don't need a doctor, do you?
Yep.
God, He puts us through the well. I didn't say He allows us to go through these things because it's a testimony. Because by grace and mercy that I'm not in prison, that I'm not back in prison because that's where they tried to put me,
Yeah.
and I'm not dead.
Good. That's right. You're a fighter. And
God,
yeah, I love this. I love it. I love it. I love it.
but like I say, I just want to help the next person. I
Mm,
wish I had one of me, But my family, I've come to realize they don't want it. They're not going to heal. My mother has tried to, but her sister's here all the time, and it's just a constant battle. And you can't save everybody.
oh my gosh.
I mean, and my mother's my world, but I choose. I mean, before I let them crash me, I'm going to have to move on and love them from a distance. And sometimes you have to do that because your
Yes.
family's not going to take the new you. They're going to keep remembering where you was a screw up, you know. But just love them, just love them from a distance.
Yeah.
That's my mission now.
Yep. Oh, thank you so much. And we only have 2 minutes left in the show. There's still
Yeah.
more I know we want to talk about. So how did you kind of want to sum it up for today?
Well, I wanted to talk about Targeted. I'm almost through with my book Targeted, and it's about a family that target men and pretty much, well, like I say, it tells my story and how I was targeted and how others have been targeted, and it's all about the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and I did a speaking one time, and it only took me a second. And I said, how many of you have kids? A lot of people held up their hands. I said, now I want you to think, how much would it cost
Mm-hmm.
for, you know what I mean? And when I'm going to just leave the rest of it out, they gasp.
Yeah.
But it's done every day. You want to, it's done right here in Florida. It's done right here in America every day.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, Jill.
I want to thank you because you're that beacon of strength for so many voiceless people out there. And if someone's out there right now listening, feeling trapped in their own cycle of trauma, what would you say?
Get up.
Yes.
Get up.
Yeah.
Stop letting them people control you. You got to get this right.
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Dispenza on YouTube will help change your life. It's all about your mindset. Stop letting people in your head. Take your power back and be that great person that you are.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thank you. How can we reach you one more time?
904-463-8755. JJ Snipes on Facebook, Global Healer on TikTok, and I am moving forward on Instagram.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you here and looking forward to the next time. Thank you so much, JJ.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you always sharing your story with us and being so positive and being so awesome to so many. Thank you. Go to the YouTube channel and we'll check you out soon. All right. Thanks again.
All righty. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.